My name is Ornella Hernandez, and I'm a tech and Web3 journalist. And today we're talking about the secret network with Lisa Loud and Ian, who is a validator. And as we speak, the secret community is putting to a vote whether the chain survives. So, just some background before we get into it. Secret Labs is the team that built the secret network, and they have stepped away from the L1 and they propose migrating it to Arbitrum. But the community pushed back, and Lisa Loud, who's led the Secret Network Foundation for 3.5 years, proposed continuing the L1 under a new identity that she would lead. Now, Secret Labs has disputed many times claims tied to the first version of Lisa's proposal, and both sides have been giving a back and forth. But over 20 revisions, Lisa's proposal is finally being put to a vote. And now Proposal 365 is live and it will be closed in a few more days. It's the total time it was open was for 1 week. Now, there have been some recent updates as this vote opened. And Ian, if you want to get into something that happened 2 nights ago when the chain actually halted for over 30 minutes. And that caused a big disruption for validators. So from the validator perspective, can you just tell us like what you're feeling right now and how this may change things?
The halt really made it obvious that the chain went from being stable to unstable in a short period of time. I'd have to go back and look how quickly that happened, but it the stakes used to be much more distributed across the validators. And on secret, it's actually very important beyond like the beyond the risk of like the type of halt that happened last night or the night before. But that one happened because roughly 50% of the stake is on the Kraken validator. And Kraken had an outage in their data center, and when that happens, the chain halts. There were validators that just thought it was like the end. They're like, oh, RIP, right? Like that we were seeing these messages and stuff. But the outage, ended after, 30 or so minutes and it came back. It's kind of a big deal, regarding some of the things that Guy Ziskin said uh about like owning this modest stake. Um I mean, they own enough to where they could concentrate the voting power in a way where one validator going offline can halt the chain. And beyond that, there are some deep nuances to secret that I, I don't like most people just don't know, but there's a set of emergency signers, and so I actually run the test net. It was transferred from a group of people that were like running it in like nodes in different places to my data center like I don't know, a year or so ago. And when that transfer happened, uh, it actually halted, and then we could never recover it. This eventually happened, and we found the reason why was because it was tied to the emergency signer code. So there's this like fork protection feature, and if you don't have enough of the emergency signers actually as validators in the set, and it is like it can be changed, but it requires like an upgrade. So like currently there's a list of specific validators, and if they leave for economic reasons, such as like running that server at a loss, it's expensive to run on secret. If they leave for economic reasons or any other reasons, um, the chain can halt. Like it can halt in a manner where there are very specific people that you would have to choose from and get them to cooperate in order for the chain to even function again. Like with the state, like the encrypted state and stuff like that, you would need these signers. So,
Okay.
like, yeah,
So
you
that
can
really
ask
puts
more.
the whole chain at risk. And then Lisa, how are you feeling about this? And do you think this affects the vote or the way people are gonna vote?
Yeah, I actually do. it was not a fun experience to have the chain halt, but on the other hand, it did really highlight the fact that the chain is currently fragile with the distribution of delegations. And the whole reason that we are having this vote, the whole reason that we're doing a community effort to manage the chain is to address these issues. And so we had a stark example of what can happen if this vote doesn't pass, if this proposal doesn't go through. The chain is really at risk. And it was funny, Ian mentioned that a lot of the validators were like, oh, this is the end. I guess it's over. Rest in peace. Because, we know that we're in a fragile state. I mean, the reality was that it was just a node going down. There was a plan for bringing it back up, and it wasn't a permanent halt. It was just, unfortunately, a server going down. But it did really illustrate the fragility if it's not fixed. And our whole vote, our whole proposal is designed to increase the resilience of the network, along with several other objectives.
Okay, so what's in place today, given that the core dev team has left, right? And what, like, what I guess you said it's in a fragile state, right? The chain is in a fragile state. So what is in place today, and what is being done to, or what is being proposed to change that?
So up until now, this secret network has been managed and maintained by Secret Labs. And since they've announced that they're no longer going to support it, the date that they announced was September 1st. So in theory, they're still involved, but we haven't really heard from them. So it's not clear what the current status is. The current status is we're in limbo until this proposal passes. So yeah, it seems like they're gone. So where we are today is different from where we've been for the last 3 years, which is we don't have what's needed to maintain the chain and make sure and support it continuing. That said, there are people, the validators are coming together in an amazing way to address issues like this. To the best of our ability without having a core dev team in place. But what's neat, that's just a temporary kind of emergency measures that we're in right now. We have to react to whatever happens, but there's no one actually assigned to whose responsibility is to make sure the chain continues. So the future, as you asked, what does the future look like? The future is that we have a new core dev team, and the dilution that we've proposed is really meant to support those resources so that we can have a talented and competent core dev team in charge of maintaining the chain. Along with, that's another of the objectives.
So let's get into the numbers of the dilution. Originally, you had proposed 80. Now it's around 275, given the feedback of the community. So what actually moved that number, and is this still a viable percentage?
Well, I'll say that 80 was just an example. It wasn't a proposal. The original proposal that we had was a little lower, and with feedback from the community, we pushed it higher. The community felt that if we were going to do this, we needed to ensure the longevity of the chain, that this continued for many years, not just a stopgap. And we don't want to do a future mint. Of course, we want to keep it. We want to make the tokenomics work for the long term. So we did push it up to a higher amount with feedback, really valuable feedback from the community on what was needed, especially on the builder fund. We needed more there. And we wanted to have a significant remediation fund. So, and we can talk more about that, but essentially it covers all of the aspects. It covers the validators. There's a validator program, because if we don't keep our validators, we don't have a resilient chain. So the validator program is a very important part of this proposal, where it incentivizes the validators to remain. So they're not underwater, they're not losing money every month. They're actually, there's a benefit to them to staying, and also to show that we appreciate the validators who stuck through all of this drama with us. There's incentive, there's appreciation there too.
Definitely, right. Let's go into those numbers then of the validator program, if you can just explain it a little more. In the proposal, you say there's 10% upfront and 90% earned over 5 years. So why this structure instead of maybe like a flat number?
Well, overall, we're trying to show that there's long-term commitment to the network, and that will come from the foundation, which has the 10% um, immediate unlocking, but the rest is vested over 5 years. 5 years is actually chosen deliberately. It's longer than industry standard, and that's really to make the point that we're here for the long haul. We're here, we're committed, and the validators, we also want them to be committed, so they also have a 5 year vesting period. Unlocking everything at once would just indicate that, this was a money grab, which it's not. We don't want to, we're not here for our own benefit. We're here for the benefit of the chain. And the vesting schedule is intended to demonstrate that very clearly.
All right. And then, Ian, how are you feeling about this? And why are you really sticking around, even through the uncertainty?
I mean, I've been in this community since 2017. So I don't know. I mean, I'm one of the longest running community members. I was a Genesis validator. Um, I've always been helping in some way. Uh, there's a lot of history here I'm not going to get into, but yeah, I'm not prepared to let like uh, this go in a bad direction, let's say. That's my answer.
Yeah, no, I get it. You've worked so hard in this and you want to fight. You don't want to give up yet. And so, what is at risk, though, if the vote goes the other way, though? What would happen?
The most immediate risk is that like the stake distribution, so validators were already, like a lot of them were already running at a loss. It's more expensive to validate on secret than like a dozen other examples. It's not the most expensive out of all blockchains, but it's pretty expensive, let's say. So when the stake distribution got warped like this, we're looking at like a permanent state where like the validators, the specific validators that are required to sign and be in the set, uh, they might leave. Uh, I mean, it's essentially the expectation, like thinking they won't is essentially the expectation that they will just continue to like run at a loss in perpetuity. Like they don't have a proper stake in the network. So like yeah. Um I like the risk is that they would leave, and if they leave, it doesn't matter what anybody does at all. If you get too many signers that leave, uh, the chain will halt. Like it will halt. Like we've seen this, like on the test net. Like I said, it happened there. So, yeah, if there's no steward, why would they stay? Um, like Secret Labs exiting and like taking all their coins and not doing a proper transition, like leaving no resources for like a foundation to do anything, etc. Like no one's staying for that. I I I mean potentially they will, but anybody that would have their money on such a chain that doesn't have a steward like this and is very like has very specific like you know design that introduces this risk, they're essentially just like, yeah, the 20 people or 10 people will do this forever and lose money. Like it doesn't, that's going to be the state. So I don't know when like the chain would halt afterwards, but eventually it just halts. And it's a very specialized skill set to do any of the TEE work and the secret contract work and stuff. So there's not many people that could even raise their hands to actually maintain the thing. Um, there are people, but then it's a small group of people that could, and then it's an even smaller group of people that would have any interest. So, um, yeah,
So, would you say that it's very close to potentially becoming a zombie chain right now, given the current
yeah.
state?
I mean, if there's no more core development team, it's a zombie chain. Like I don't want to name other chains and make them angry, but there's a couple, especially in Cosmos. There's a few that like either just have like a solo dev, and some of those devs are great, but there's no like proper steward in some of these. Um, one that I would name is Jackal. I don't know if you've heard of Jackal, but their core dev team left, and like the chain, that's a much easier chain to maintain than Secret, but it just keeps running. No idea like who is like, I know the validate like some of the validators, like enough of them are around to where the chain is functional, but like like there's no one leading this.
And
Right.
there's no one building on it.
Yeah,
And
I mean
So
it's dead.
there's other chains that are leaving Cosmos for other ecosystems seems to be a trend right now. So then why do you guys think that staying with Cosmos is the right call for Secret? You can both take a stab at it.
yeah, I'll start. So there's been, I mean, first of all, from a practical perspective, we need to stay with Cosmos because we need to make sure that we take care of the hack victims. We need to make sure that if we were to migrate to another chain, we would have to have a plan. It would take 6 months for us to create a plan so that we don't leave anyone behind. It's not it's not super easy to move away from Cosmos for this chain because as Ian said, it's a specialized chain. It uses the TE. It has a bunch of things that are only available in Cosmos. We'd have to redesign that in another chain. And then our ecosystem apps would need to migrate, which would be work on their part as well. So there's a lot of work required to leave Cosmos. It's not something that is best for the community, especially if you do it very quickly. So, we take everybody's interests into account. This is a community. It's not a for-profit company. It's a blockchain community. And so they're moving away from Cosmos right now is just not practical. And then on the other hand, we have seen, yes, there's been a trend of moving away from Cosmos, but more recently we've seen some new partners come into Cosmos, some institutional partners, and I'm kind of interested to see what happens. There may be some rejuvenation on the chain and on the ecosystem and builders. It looks like we're going that direction. So, let's find out first.
All right. And then Ian, maybe you could talk to Lisa's point about how it's just not practical to migrate chains in like 1 month, how Secret Labs had originally proposed that it would take around 6 months. So could you go into the technical aspects about this?
Yeah, so I mean, the Arbitrum proposal was totally rushed, and that's why people were going to be left behind. People in the secret contracts. So there's like a staking derivative, stake secret. There's secret secret, um, and they were essentially going to be left behind. Um, and yeah, you can't migrate that stuff super quickly, and but none of that is actually really why I'm fine with staying on Cosmos though. For me, like you don't like Cosmos doesn't really care about projects like us, like the Cosmos company and stuff. And that's kind of fine with me. They're focusing on enterprises. My view is that they raised to make an SDK, and as long as they keep developing that, it like the technology stack doesn't really matter, as long as they keep developing that and we can take from upstream there. Cosmos is a great solution for the type of chain we have. Um, like I don't see a reason to leave, and I like Ethereum, and I like Ethereum a lot. So it would be a great
Yeah, I was going to
place to
ask
end up
why
someday.
not Ethereum?
Yeah, it would be a great place to end up someday, but it's not trivial. Like there are security costs, and uh like if you're trying to make like an L2, there are costs to this that are significantly higher than staying on Cosmos. Um I don't see a benefit to leaving at the moment. I really don't, especially in a rushed manner. It would just kill things.
Well, I mean, the downsides to staying on Cosmos are the need for bridges to other networks, right? Cosmos is great within IBC, but if you go outside of the Cosmos ecosystem, then you've got to have bridges. So, and bridges have historically been the vulnerable attack points. So having bridges is a downside. But we have solutions now. The technology has evolved to the point where we believe we can build bridges that have a much lower attack surface. So if you solve that problem, then there's no reason to leave. It's just a technology stack. Do we know what language our apps are coded in? No, we don't care. It's the same kind of deal. It's the underlying tech stack. If it works well, then let's use it.
Exactly. All right. So that's a good transition point. Let's talk about the hack, the unfortunate hack that happened around a month ago, I think, and what you're doing to remediate the hack victims. So I understand that the allocation is now at around 3.1% post mint supply. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So how did we get to that calculation?
So the hack happened on June 10th, and the amount taken was around $5 million, not just under, but not tokens. Um, so some of that is actually contained in the XLR bridge. So not all of that is subject to our plan. So then you get down to around, I guess it's around under 4 million. That we would be trying to remediate. At our current size and our current token price, it's not possible for us to allocate enough to cover all of that. There's no way for us to achieve that given the current circulating supply and market cap, including after the mint. So what we did was we looked at the examples of chains that have done remediation after hacks, and we modeled it on the ones that were closest to what our situation is, as well as the ones that were most successful in assuring the continuity of the chain after the hack. Which isn't to say that at current prices, yes, it's not covering a large amount of the remediation, but that doesn't mean that over time that couldn't change. The token price is going to be somewhat fluctuating over the next year or so, assuming everything goes well. And so it's hard to determine a percentage right now.
Okay. But then still victims wouldn't get remediated immediately, right? It would take some time.
Yes, exactly. Unfortunately. And we also have a vesting period. We put that in, we modeled that along the lines of the other ones that were successful as well.
2.5 years. So that's like a historical number.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Ian, what do you think about this? Is this viable?
Um, I mean, like, I think it is essentially the best possible scenario, given that um, no one else is apparently going to step up to remediate these people. Um, I like, you know, it would be a crummy situation to be in, uh, to be a hack victim, period. But my perspective on this has pretty much remained the same the whole time. It's, and we can we're happy to try to improve this further, but it's essentially like nothing, or whatever end state this gets to. Um, Proposal is fixed or whatever, but you never know what can be improved in the future, let's say. Um,
Yeah, something is better than nothing. I mean, Mount Gox victim hacks or hack victims, they waited what, like 12 years, I think.
Yeah, it's true.
They got
It's
stuck.
not a model we want to copy.
Right, right. And I'm curious if both of you have ever been subject to any scams or hacks yourselves, if you'd like to
Oh,
share
yeah.
just personal
So,
anecdotes.
so many, unfortunately. I've been in crypto since 2018 and 2017. And yeah, I've had so many, not necessarily hacks personally, I had one where someone got a hold of my private keys somehow. But the others were all just more like rugs, you know.
Right. Right. What about you, Ian? Are you
Uh,
too in the
no,
weeds
no,
to get outsmarted?
no. It hasn't happened like recently. Uh, Depending on what perspective I want to have on that. But I don't know. I was in at Mt. Gox, uh, inputs.io, Butterfly Labs. Um, those are the ones that come to mind immediately, but those are all pretty old.
Yeah. Yeah. But you got
And
to see
then
some of your funds back?
inputs.io, I remember negotiating with the guy over like Skype or something, and it was like I don't even know. It was some stupid number of bitcoins, like 50 bitcoins or something at the time. And he was like, "Oh, we were hacked. I can't give them all back. I can give you some." And I think I got like 20 back or something. I don't. It was so long ago. It has to have been a minimum of 10 years ago, but longer, I actually think. Butterfly Labs, the FTC came in, and the Federal Trade Commission came in, and they shut them down. And then the company like refused to deliver any of the hardware or do anything until the FTC opened them back up. And then eventually we got refunds. Um, it wasn't in the amount of bitcoins that was paid for the mining equipment, but it was the current day's value, so it was a bunch less or whatever. But got the refund. Usually if you press like hard enough, I mean, depends on a lot of things, but if you press really hard, uh you can sometimes get refunds from the people responsible for these things.
We were involved with the FTX um, issue or incident, and we're still waiting for some kind of remediation for that. Um, but I will say that, you know, we are in contact with some of the hack victims as well. So we're talking to them, and opinions are mixed. Some of them are just like, yeah, this is just so much better than nothing. I appreciate everything you can do, because we weren't actually in. It wasn't any. No one here was responsible for that actual hack, and so we're the people who are just trying to come in and do something right for the people who were affected. So, you know, there's appreciation there. There's understanding that not everything can be restored and given the situation, and that at least someone's trying to do something.
No, definitely. And I hope that eventually there will be a good outcome for the
Yeah,
victims.
me
Um,
too.
let's talk a little bit more about the mint, um, and why a mint of like to get right because you guys need to do the mint to get the funding for a new dev team, right? Is that correct?
And
Yes.
Okay.
security.
So why is and for security, of course. So walk me through why a mint of this size is kind of the only path, and what's the alternative?
Many blockchains that I've worked with are organized where the foundation has a treasury, and they fund the core development, they fund the maintenance, they fund the utilities from that treasury. I joined Secret Network 3 years ago, over 3 years now, 3.5, and that I was a little surprised to find out that it was upside down. It was never organized. Well, as long as I've been there, it's never been organized that way. The foundation really never had a treasury. Labs held all of the treasury for the chain, including the grants funds and the maintenance funds and the builder funds. All of that was really sitting with labs. Over my time, when I first joined 3 years ago, there was no revenue. I got a little bit of remaining cash from the previous foundation, and then there was no revenue. And for 18 months, we made that last for 18 months. And at the end of that, I had shown the community that the foundation was doing things in the best interests of the chain, and we were able to get a tax on the chain approved to fund the foundation. And then that tax, we eventually got it increased. So the foundation has never really held much of a treasury. We've just existed on the tax on the chain. So given that there's no, all of the things on a chain need to be funded, right? You need to fund the core development. We're also trying to fund the remediation. We need to fund the validators by delegations and other ways. We need to fund builders. There needs to be some kind of ecosystem builder fund to attract new projects and make sure that they have an initial a bit of support and resources to start building. There's the foundation itself that needs to be funded. So there's all of these things, and each bucket that we've identified is a new bucket because the foundation never had a treasury. If we had a treasury, we could have done this more gracefully because we could have transitioned into supporting the entire reallocating funds into everything. But given the fact that there's no treasury and no funds, how does a chain run without any funds at all? And the entity that had those funds withdrew, so there was no other option except to create a mint. There was no other way to continue the essential functions on the chain.
Okay. I'm just wondering why, if it's so standard to have a treasury, why did Secret Labs not?
I mean, that predates me,
Right.
and I don't know. Like that's what was handed to me when I started. So I will say that I was surprised and asked why it was that way and tried to actually change it in my first few months, but it was clear that that was not going to change. So I just went forward with the best solution.
All right. And so I know that you also managed the relationships with exchanges, right? Because
Mhm.
the token, I think, I want to say it's listed on around 12 exchanges, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It depends how you count. Around 12.
Okay. So then what's the risk that this community mint could cause maybe delistings or would sever those relationships with exchanges?
Yeah, I think sever is not the right word, but there is a risk that exchanges will see a large dilution as a risk factor, and they'll add a risk tag onto the listing. And of course, having a risk tag on the listing means it's not as solid and stable as one that doesn't have a risk tag. So there's always a risk there when we do something major like this. If there had been another option that we could have come up with that would continue the chain, we wouldn't have chosen this because then we'd reduce the risk of losing listings. But I will say that with this number of listings, we have good relationships with all of our exchanges that have our token listed. It's been listed for many years. The communication and transparency is key. The fact that they're seeing the community discuss it is very important. The fact that they see the proposals go on chain. So those who are most affected are the existing token holders, and those are the people who are voting for this. The validators who are most affected, the token holders who are most affected by a dilution. So if all of the people that are affected by the dilution are voting for this change, that's a strong signal for exchanges that this is the right move for the chain, and they're less likely to put the risk tag on.
And what are you hearing now from the community, given that the vote has already been up for a few days? Is it mostly positive or are people optimistic?
Yeah, I would say overwhelmingly positive, with a couple of exceptions. But the overwhelming positiveness is from the actual validators, the actual token holders. There's a lot of discussion, but you can see the vote is mostly green at this point. Green is yes, um, and we're seeing a groundswell of support for it.
And the like so there's one no with well there's 11 no with vetoes, but 93% of it is from one wallet. So like there isn't actually a lot of opposition at all. It's just like I said, uh you need to have stewards that have a proper stake in the network in order for the network to even function. Like, uh, some of the people that are arguing against this, primarily the ones that I've seen, uh, there are it's not all this, but some of the loudest objections essentially are like they would rather there be like no mint, and that Lisa and I and whoever else uh just kind of like do this full time and I don't know, like have no resources, have no say in the network like at all. Like be they just want it to like keep going and there to be no resources for us. That's essentially like the thing I'm seeing, which
Right.
doesn't make
It's
sense.
not very logical.
No.
No.
It doesn't. Okay, so is there any word from Secret Labs or Guy in the past few days, separate from uh, the chain halting?
No, they didn't comment on the chain halting. So
Oh, I
nothing.
thought they did post something. No, nothing?
No, they didn't
Oh,
say
okay.
they didn't say anything about the chain halting. I'm not even sure if they know it happened.
Yeah, there's been radio silence. I think it's a clear signal.
Clear signal. All right. Okay, guys, I think those are all my main questions. So if there's anything else that you want to add or think should be said before we
Well,
wrap.
I just wanted to mention that, with Ian mentioned 11 wallets that voted no, but the number of wallets that voted yes is much higher, and that's a very small number of votes. So we're getting really good participation in the vote from the validators and from wallets. Probably, maybe one of the a record. We might be setting a record for participation in the overall network in recent years. So there's a lot of vested interest. People are very invested in the outcome of this, one way or the other. And I would say most of the answers and votes are positive and supportive.
Okay, that's great to hear.
If it fails, it's essentially going to be because like a couple of wallets that are like either secret labs or people that got distributions from them and if are affiliated with them, because those are essentially like there's a few other types of actors that have like large amounts of coins, but when you see like a wallet with millions and millions of coins in it, that is very very old, like the older it is, the higher the likelihood is that it's like some genesis kind of thing. And it would just be like a few of those. Like even the prior proposal, which was a text proposal, the only reason it failed is because Secret Labs vetoed it. That's it. And I mean, it's not an accusation. Like they admit it.
They stated that was the last communication that we had from them was that they vetoed that proposal, but they would support future proposals. But we're not seeing the support. So we'll
Got it.
see.
All right. And so, any last words for someone who might be on the fence about their vote?
Yeah, I think the people who are on the fence are not aware of the stakes. They don't understand that, like, I don't think they know that the chain halted because of it was a very brief halt, so they might not have noticed, and the reasons that it halted and what the risks are that it could halt again, or we could lose validators. I think the people who are on the fence are thinking there's another option for it to just continue without understanding these sweeping changes that have happened that make it impossible for the chain to survive unless this proposal passes. So I would say do some reading to those people.
Yeah, similar. If somebody is on the fence and they have enough stake for them to feel nervous, they actually have to read this stuff because like secret is too specialized to just limp along. Um, eh, it will corrupt or like break at some point without maintenance. Like that will happen. For various reasons that are either just purely technical things or like people that leave. And it is hard coded to very specific people. So if it's not just like, oh, we can replace all the validators or whatever, like the chain could go on, new validate. It's not like that. If a specific set of these people walk away from this project, and it's a small number of people, uh, the chain will halt and never start again. That it's a guaranteed outcome if they walk away.
Okay. And why does the world need the secret network when there are so many other L1s out there?
That's a great question. There's nothing else that provides on-chain encryption at this point. The type of on-chain encryption that Secret Network provides. There are projects that are trying to build it using other technologies besides TEs, but it's a little bit a ways out there. The ecosystem builders that I talk to who are either on Secret or want to build. Oh, that's one thing I did want to say is that with this resurgence of the chain, with this renewed hope, we're seeing so many builders come back, either builders who previously wanted to build on the chain and left because of the situation, or new builders who are looking for something like this, and this solves their problem. So it's been actually kind of a really fun time to get to talk to people who are excited about Secret Network again, or for the first time. And the amount of interest coming in if this passes is huge. So we're not just trying to save a dying dinosaur. We're trying to rejuvenate something that is very relevant for the future. We started way before privacy was a catchword, and these days everyone wants privacy, the type of programmable privacy that we've been running for years. So it's not just like reviving old technology. It's actually, we want to upgrade the chain, provide new technology, and it's very exciting what we can build here.
Ian, any last words?
There's a lot of nuance to like what elements make Secret special, like from a tech standpoint and from a community standpoint. Definitely, we have like a very, very resilient community. Like, you know, maybe Luna is like the only one that has been through more than us, like in my opinion or whatever. Uh, so we have like a really resilient community with a specialized skill set, and then when it comes to like the chain itself, um, it definitely hasn't been properly maintained over the last few years, but there there are unique properties. There are approaches to how things were done here that have pros and cons, but they're very unique. And the people that are staying and trying to get this uh, back, back in the right direction. We definitely have ideas for what that would look like if somebody actually was developing the chain. Because yeah, like it hasn't really been developed in a bit here.
All right. Well, good luck to you guys and the
Thanks.
rest
Thank
of
you.
the community. Time will tell. We have a few more days until the vote closes, and then we'll catch up again and see what the results are.
Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah, it was great talking to you guys today. Thank you for your time.